Is there more to midlife than just getting through it? Absolutely. Welcome. I'm your host, Debbie Cunningham, jazz artist turned midlife mentor, and I'm here to say to you loud and clear, it's time for your midlife crescendo. Hey friends, have you ever considered an alternative health screening for breast cancer other than your mammogram? Today's guest is Victoria Bailey. She is going to introduce us to thermography, telling us more about what it is and how it can be a helpful tool in early detection of not only cancer, but other problems in your body. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but I'd like to encourage you to do a monthly self-exam. Being aware of what is normal for your body, since it is different for every woman, is very important in detecting a change from what's your normal. Most recently, someone dear to me found out she had breast cancer at the age of 24. And we don't normally start having mammograms until age 40. So if she wasn't doing a monthly exam, she would have never found the lump. So ladies, remind your sisters and your daughters and your nieces to do a monthly self-exam, because knowing your body is the first line of defense when it comes to early detection. Okay, friends, now on with the interview. Well, hey, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have with me Victoria Bailey. Victoria is the owner of Envision Thermography and Wellness, located in Cool Springs area of Franklin, Tennessee, which opened in 2011. She is a level 2 clinical thermographer and a level 2 assisted lymphatic therapist. Received a degree in naturopathy from Trinity University in 2014 and attended Loomis Institute of Digestive Health, graduating in 2015 as an enzyme specialist. Her practice is focused primarily on women's health issues, but are not limited to women's health. She is also a very dear longtime friend. Welcome, Victoria. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, the first question I always ask my guests is, can you tell us something about yourself that is not on your bio?
Something personal. Let's see. I'm a stamp nerd. I've been collecting stamps since I was 5. I would say that 1% of the people who know me as long as you have would even know that. Everyone always says, what would you do if you're not doing what you are? And I say that I would like to be a chef and deliver meals to people who live on boats.
Well, that sounds fun.
There's
Stamp collecting, right? 2 things I didn't know about you, and I've known her for a really long time. First of all, stamp collecting harkens way back to my childhood. I remember those little stamp collecting books that we used to have. And then I think being a chef and delivering food to people on boats sounds like a fun idea.
Well, you can't really cook for yourself very well on a boat, so it'd be nice to have somebody bring you really good meals.
I know. I think that's great. Plus, you'd get the view from the boat. Right. Well, so I invited you here today, of course, as part of Breast Health Awareness, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but you do something a little bit different, breast thermography. However, thermography in general, as an alternative to mammogram for a breast health screening, is actually still foreign to many women. Can you tell us what thermography is?
I can. So thermography, and I'm going to kind of compare it to some of the more traditional technologies, which I think is a better explanation.
Right.
Thermography is a technology. We use a far infrared camera. We don't touch you, so there's no smushing you. It doesn't produce any radiation whatsoever. And it measures the physiology of your body. Most traditional technologies measure the anatomy of the body. So anatomically, something has to be big enough, dense enough, basically old enough before it can be seen. That can be anywhere, and I know that technology keeps changing. Right now, it's anywhere from 4 to 10 years in the body before it can kind of be detected.
And that's with a regular mammogram?
Mammograms, ultrasounds, MRIs. So just traditional technologies. Thermography measures the physiology of your body. Physiologically, your body creates a change when something enters it, whether it's pain, infection, inflammation, and malignancies, it doesn't matter. It's going to create, it's kind of like our body thinks we're smart enough that we want to keep everything that's in it. And so it will dilate the blood that's around it, create new bloodlines to feed it so that it can flourish, prosper, and grow on its own, like any other organ in the body. So that technology, thermography picks that process up within the first, from day 1 to day 90, and then going forward in the body. So it's a much earlier detection. So they call it a predictive indicator because it really is a predictive indicator of something that we have no clue of what's about to come on us.
Wow, that's amazing that it can detect changes that early in the body.
It can detect the changes. The other difference is that because of the physiological process that happens, if there is, let's say, a cyst, maybe even a fluid-filled cyst, that cyst will still show up on a traditional technology as density. They don't know what it is. So what are we going to do? We're going to poke it. We're going to prod it. We're going to remove it. As opposed to thermography, which can say, but there is no blood flow to this. So there's nothing to it. It's just kind of part of your physiology.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So if if it would be a cancerous tumor, would there be blood flow to that?
Yes.
Did not know that. I did not know that at all. Interesting. So with thermography, now, have you always been interested in thermography? I mean, has this always been a lifelong goal for you to work in this health and wellness capacity?
It does not. I spent 30 years in long-term care before I decided to do this. I even had my own retirement community that I ended up selling. And one of my dearest friends is an RN, published, smart as she can be, who would holler at me every year for not getting a mammogram. And we are not anti-mammogram, but I personally choose to not do them. She was going for a hernia surgery, and they always do an MRI before that. And they literally found a stage 3 breast cancer 2 weeks from her last mammogram on an MRI for hernia surgery. So the
Wow.
mammogram had missed it every year that she'd had one. Stage 3 is pretty far advanced. I mean, that could be up to 15 years in your body. So, I mean, I don't know that because I don't have all of the information, but that's certainly the statistics. So when I saw that, I got pretty upset. In the meantime, I had worked in The Hague in the Netherlands, and that was where I was introduced to thermography. And in Europe, they use it quite differently than we do in the States, but that it's been around a very long time. And even when I came home from the States, came home to the States, nobody wanted to hear about it. They just kind of hung up on me and closed doors. And when she got sick, I was so angry. And I thought, what in the world could she have done? She did everything right that we're told to do. And then I woke up at 4 a.m, literally, and remembered the thermography because I'd forgotten about it. And I said, I'm going to look into this. And so I started to do some research. I went back to school to brush up on my education that I had totally forgotten because I didn't use it, investigated the equipment, and that was kind of how I started doing this.
That's amazing. And I'm sorry about your friend, but what an amazing process you've been through after that, building your own business to help women detect those things earlier in their body. Well, if a listener was curious, most women know what a mammogram is, and when they go in, they expect the squeezing, the pushing, the whole thing. And there's all these funny memes and stories that we tell as women to one another when we're going to get our mammograms. But can you tell a woman, if she's curious, what it would be like to come and have a mammogram?
A thermogram.
A thermogram. I said
Yeah.
the wrong thing.
So it's well, first of all, it's a little chilly. That's the one thing I can say, and that's probably our biggest joke is how chilly it is. So it's in a little bit of a cooler room. We always have female technicians in this office. There are 2 of us, and Alicia is actually an RN, which I love. She's got the I have the Eastern, she has the Western medicine. So you would undress to whatever kind of a scan, if it's full body or just an upper body or just a breast, and stay in the room for about 6 or 7 minutes. And then we would come back in and we would basically take images of you. We're going to turn you. We're going to kind of look at them from the front and the back and the side and three quarters. And it actually goes very, very quickly. As fast as you follow directions, we can get the images. And at that point, then we stop. We let you get dressed and get warm. And then we go over everything with you. And, we give you our best shot. It is not diagnostic. Nothing is diagnostic. The only thing that can diagnose you is a biopsy. Sometimes a PET scan, but mostly it's a biopsy that's going to diagnose you. So we can kind of give you an idea of what's going on. We can show you every image, explain what they mean from our perspective. And then we work with a group of physicians who are thermologists. And so what we love in this practice, we will send your images off to them, your history and physical off to them, and they will create a written report. And what I love about that is that you get Eastern eyes and Western eyes on the exact same thing at the same time. Usually takes only about 2 days to get the whole report back. And then, you just call us if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can take it to your doctor. But it's written pretty clearly, and it's broken down by body section if we're doing more than just the breast.
And so, as when we do a mammogram, it's then sent to someone to read it and get a report. Is this a similar process?
It is. It is.
And then if there's something concerning, though, then someone can then take it to their doctor and then they can move on from there. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we call it clinical correlation. And that simply means, there's definitely something going on here. And we recommend that and it may be a mammogram, it may be an ultrasound. We always recommend ultrasounds before mammograms because that's where you end up if you find something in a mammogram anyway. So it's very difficult to get an ultrasound without a mammogram. So we will refer you on to whomever. If it's dental, we refer you there. If it seems to be more structural, maybe it's chiropractic or an orthopedic massage. And so we do give you some help. We don't just take your pictures and send you a piece of paper and say, tap you on the head and say, here you go. We try to guide you through the whole thing.
That's excellent. And so what else would you like to share about thermography? Because most of us don't have a lot of education about that, but you do much more than that in your office. Do you want to talk more about that?
I didn't start off as a naturopath. What happened was, as I was going along doing thermography and I would be able to explain to people what I was seeing, they would ask me, what should I do about it? And I thought, well, that's a really good question because I have no idea. And that's kind of what catapulted me to go back to school and get my ND. And one of the other things that we do in our practice is lymphatic drainage. We don't do it by hand. It's called assisted lymphatic. We use a machine that actually can get to the center of the lymphatic portal and flush it out as opposed to moving it incrementally. And I love hand lymphatic massages, but especially for someone with something chronic, this is a much faster, more in-depth way to start that process. I remembered being in ND school and we got a textbook on every tooth, I think, but we got 2 chapters on the lymphatic system. And I thought, if I have any brain cells left when I'm done here, I'm going to look into this, and started doing a lot of research. And it was amazing what I was able to learn of the lymphatic system. It's 85% of the immune system. It's 92% water. It flows south. We need it to go north. It's very passive. It doesn't move on its own. I think it's God's little joke on us. And so what I started to do was to seek a way to get around that and actually kick up that lymphatic system, clean it. Because let's face it, no matter what you're doing for yourself, if you start off with 85% of your filter clogged, you're not going to get much vacuuming. Your air conditioner is not going to work. Your car is not going to run. And so we actually then found a process and a machine that lets us kind of change the oil in the car, because we're moving all of the black, thick stuff that's stuck in your lymphatic system and letting clean fluids go back through it.
Well, now that's fascinating. So that you're talking about the lymphatic system. Can you tell us why that's so important?
Well, because it's 85% of your immune system. Stress, injury, and illness are the 3 things that clog the lymphatic system more than anything else. I mean, if you were a stressful birth or pregnancy, you were born that way. If you were under stress when you were pregnant, your children were born that way. So
wow.
Kids with the green noses and the rattly chests and the yanking on the ear, it's almost always just a clogged lymphatic system. It's an autoimmune system. So we get it cleared and suddenly they're doing better.
Well, that's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah, lymphatic system is very important to our body. because it is one of the largest filters. It's also one of the only self-contained systems. At some point, it mixes back with the capillaries, but it's literally like its own plumbing system in our body.
Wow. Well, what else do we need to know about that? Because like that's a whole another education.
It is a whole other show. Yeah. I think every person over the age of 35 needs to have a small series of lymphatic drainages just to get them going. I mean, you're going to find things like you will sleep better, you will think clearer. It not only clears the lymphatic system, it will clear the organs. You have a clogged liver, you have a clogged large intestine, you have an ovary that's acting up. It will help to flush those out. You have a muscle that's been strained or damaged somehow, it will help to actually flush that out and let that begin to heal. Great for pre-surgery, paramountly important for post-surgical people.
What about menopause? And because obviously on Midlife Crescendo, we're all about what we're experiencing in midlife. Are there any things as we go through menopause that affect this, that affect the lymphatic system?
Well, everything affects the lymphatic system. And clearing the lymphatic system, I'm not going to tell you it's going to help all of your menopause issues, but it does remove the xenon or bad hormones from the body, which is something that we all fight, especially as we're starting to go through menopause. It will help with some of your hot flashes, some of your night sweats, the brain fog. It's going to help with all of that. It's not good. This is not a miracle. It's not going to make it all go away, but it's definitely going to lessen those symptoms.
Amazing. Well, you've certainly been. I'm like sitting here going, I learned so much just sitting here, and I've known you for a really long time, although I haven't talked to you for a while. But I'm like fascinated that you know so much about the body and that all of this is so important to health and wellness. The lymphatic system, also having an alternative for breast health. Getting back to breast health, though, I want to come back around to thermography. Do you know how often do you need to have a thermography exam if they're looking at it and as a replacement for mammography?
Yeah, I mean, and I will never tell you it's a replacement. That is a choice that you have to make. It is
Right.
certainly an
Let me
alternative.
say an alternative.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the protocol for thermography is you receive one. I don't care if you're doing a whole body or just your breast, it doesn't matter. And then we love for you to do just your breasts again at 90 days. And then it's just an annual visit after that, unless you find something or you're feeling something. The reason for the 90-day is cancer cells double every 90 days of their life. So if something had been starting today and I scan you, I may or may not see that because it's so new. But in 90 days, there's only three things that can happen. It's going to exacerbate, it's going to dissipate, or it's going to stay the same. And so that's why we like to do the 90 days. And the other reason is that I don't know your physiology. So the first time I see you, I have no idea what your body is and what's normal for your body. And so that 90 days will kind of give us a roadmap. And then everything else is compared to the 90 days. And then annually it's compared to everything that was done before.
That's excellent. And often it used to be, what is the standard age that we get mammograms? Is it after age 40 now?
Mammograms is 40, somewhere between 40
And
and 40.
well, and here's the thing. I'm hearing from many people, and also I have people in my life, sadly, who even as young as 25 are getting breast cancer.
Mhm.
So it's really important that we do our regular self breast exams so
Mhm.
that we know our breasts and we know if there is a lump,
Right.
but also taking time to at least get some kind of an exam. And thermography you can have at any age. Is that correct?
You can have it at any age. So when we're talking about breast, though, because we never want to mislead somebody, I think the best time is around 24 because I think your hormones are changing, your breast tissue is changing, milk ducts are coming in, everything is changing so much that you may or may not get a good clean read before that. So that 24 is what I recommend here. I can tell you I have found, sadly, as young as 14.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that was a case where her mom had taught her early and she found something herself and said something's different. And, sadly, that's what it was. But she's like, I don't know, 23 or 4 now, and she's just fine because it was so early.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about women's health?
You mean how important it is? You mean the fact that
Anything you want to share?
if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of everybody else. We tend to put ourselves on the back burner because everybody else needs us. Well, if you're not around anymore, who are they going to need? And so that's the one thing I keep stressing to women is this is, we can't use the mask on yourself first because that totally means something different these days. But, that old, you have to put the mask on yourself first really is true because you have to save you. And if you're not in good health, how can you preach to your family about eating well, exercising, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water when you're doing none of those things? So
That's so true. Well, where can my audience find you online?
it is vbhealthandwellness.com. And our phone number is 615-934-3121. And we're in Cool Springs. We're right off the Seaboard Lane.
Just great. It's for all of you local listeners, it's a very close to Cool Springs area location. And I'll link her website and all of those things in the show notes. So you don't even have to look it up, but the link to her website and the information in the show notes for you just to click on later. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate having you
Thank you.
to talk about women's health.
Thank you. Thank you. Anytime. Come up with it. I'll be happy to talk about it.
I hope you found my conversation with Victoria informative and enlightening. I know I did. I am certainly not against traditional medical practices. However, I am always looking for natural ways to manage my healthcare concerns in midlife, and I want to share those with my Midlife Crescendo audience. Next week on the podcast, we will be discussing midlife caregiving and addiction recovery. Be sure to tune in each Monday so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed the show, please share this episode with another female friend this week. And if you haven't yet, I'd love it if you would review the podcast wherever you listen. It helps more women like you find Midlife Crescendo when they are looking for information on midlife topics. Thanks for tuning in today, and remember, midlife is just a brand new season to find your passion and purpose for your grand finale. Talk next week.